Good morning, friends and fellow traders. This is Doug Campbell with Right Way Options, and this is the morning market prep video for April 9th, 2024. Well, I hope everyone had a good rest overnight and you're ready for another, maybe choppy, slow day today as we wait for the CPI. But let's take a look at what happened overnight first. We had Asian markets last night mostly up, only South Korea down just ever so slightly. Everything else was looking to the upside. Shanghai had a very modest day to the upside, only up 0.05% or $1.48 on the day. So a little bit on the light side as well. If we take a look at European markets this morning, European markets right now, as I do this video, are looking lower. We've got the FTSE down 128 points this morning. The DAX, the FTSE is up $10 this morning, and the CAC is also down this morning. So a little bit of uncertainty here heading into U.S. inflation data tomorrow morning. And if we look at our U.S. futures at this very moment, all of the futures are just ever so slightly lower in a very, very modest decline so far this morning. Taking a look at other things around the market, first off, we have oil up just a little tiny bit. Yesterday we finished down a tiny bit. We're just kind of flat here in oil at the moment. Up 20 cents on oil futures at 86.63, and Brent being up 27 cents at 90.65. Natural gas is a little bit higher, trying to follow through with a nice little bump up yesterday. We'll look at that in just a little bit. And then if we take a look at our precious metals, my goodness, yesterday I was talking about putting on some hedging for a pullback in gold, silver, those kind of things, still surging to the upside. You know, there's an interesting thing going on here in the market. The market itself is suggesting that, you know, there's not going to be any problem with the CPI or inflation or PPI as we're holding up so strongly here in our markets, but the bond market completely disagrees, and we're seeing that also showing up in our precious metal as we see this defensive sector area of the market rallying strongly in those commodities. Kind of worried about what that inflation might be. Gold right now is up $25 an ounce. Silver is up. Gold right now is $2,376 an ounce. Just moving straight up parabolic. And if we look across the board here, we've got copper, platinum, palladium up. As a matter of fact, we'll look at palladium here in a little bit, maybe setting up a pattern for the upside. If we take a look at our cryptos this morning, cryptos are going the other direction this morning after a big surge up yesterday. Bitcoin is down $1,300 a coin this morning. Let's take a peek at our bonds. Our bonds this morning, well, the 2-year bond holding in there pretty steady at 4.77%. What's interesting is the 10-year bond is continuing to go up. The 10-year bond at 4.39% this morning, and the 30-year bond is hanging in there at 4.53% this morning. So still showing pressure in the bond market. The bond seems significantly concerned about what those inflation numbers may be. I don't know who's right here, but we should be taking just a little bit of a caution from that uncertainty that we see here in the market. So what does all of that mean? Well, how about we settle in, buckle up, and let's get ready for the Tuesday edition of the Morning Market Prep video. Good morning once again, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. I very much appreciate it. Things are clearing up for me. My voice is a little bit better and stronger. Hopefully, no coughing or sneezing here today as we move along. I apologize if that does crop up and cause a problem. But let's take a look at these charts and see if we can gain a little bit of information about how we might want to approach the market for today. Remember, we want to take this bias and get rid of that bias, and we want to look at the chart for what it is, not for what we want it to be. And let's kind of apply it against our market conditions out here, the things that we have in front of us that the market seems to be a little bit worried about. First off, let's take a look. Yesterday, as I suggested, there was a chance that we could just go sideways and chop along. And my goodness, we gapped up yesterday, tried to run to the upside, kind of a half-hearted attempt, I should say. Then we ended up whipsawing, taking it all away, and then just ground around sideways yesterday. And you can see leaving kind of a spinning top or a little doji candle here, suggesting uncertainty in the market. And so far this morning, we're looking at kind of the same thing, maybe setting up for today. If the bulls can find inspiration, we're going to once again, we need to see if we can push back up through here. Notice how we're starting to connect these candles together. We got these here, and we're trying to connect these to that upside. So if we can find that bullishness here in the market, we need to push up through that area. And we're also going to have to push up through this little downtrend that we have established here in the chart. See if we can break through that little double whammy of resistance here. If we can push through there, then I'm going to suggest that we push right on up and we test this bigger area of price resistance in the chart. Getting through that level changes a lot here in the market, and I suspect we won't see any kind of an attempt to getting up here until maybe we get that CPI data, and if it's bullish, we'll pop hard in the market and maybe break up through this area. Breaking through up here and holding up here sets up that upside opportunity. As a matter of fact, I would say the same if all we do is break that downtrend and through this next level of resistance right here and hold up here, that sets us up for that next upside opportunity. Now, if we take a look at this, if the bears were to engage today, that pressure that we would first see is just breaking this little support area here in the chart, breaking down below there, and once we lose that area, we run that relatively high risk that we come back down and we test this low in the chart. Things don't get ugly at all until we start breaking below there, and we do have, you know, some very small areas of price support that could catch us, you know, right through here. And actually the bigger, little bit bigger support would be down into here, which would obviously be a pretty substantial point move, and I think we're going to need some kind of data to drive us there, and I don't see that happening again until maybe we get that CPI, PPI data to drive that kind of energy in the market. If we were to jump over to the SPY, very much the same here in the S&P 500, just kind of drifting sideways. I will say the S&P 500 is more on the bullish side, and that's the influence of big tech. If you were watching yesterday, big tech was doing a pretty good job of holding up and trying to push on higher in several places, so that helped us out an awful lot here in the S&P 500. And if you look across here, that's going to be the resistance that we need to see those bulls push through. And you can see yesterday just a little spinning top. Today probably pretty much the same, but if we do have enough bullish inspiration pushing up into here, well, then you can see our next area, and that would be that all-time high resistance in the chart. See if we can break out, and anything above that, of course, is blue sky. Once again, I think we're going to need to get through the CPI and have good bullish news to break through up there. If the bears were to find inspiration here today, You can see we're kind of hanging in here, and we can connect a lot of these candles together for resistance here in the chart. A little push down, we might catch a little bit of support right in there, and then beyond that we're likely coming back down into this area of the chart. Now, breaking down below there, once again, I think that's going to require some of that CPI data that would inspire the bears to start pushing us down through some of these levels. And that's where we get into a bit of ugliness if those bears were to really get inspired on that data. And that would create a lower high here in the SPY and really kind of change the technicals and sentiment maybe of the SPY here. So watch those carefully for tomorrow morning. If we look at our QQQ, very similar situation. Spinning top yesterday, didn't accomplish much of anything at all, even though we did have some select big techs pushing to the upside. But as you can see, we've got a level right through here where we can connect a lot of these candles together on resistance. If the bulls can push through that area, then I think we have that chance. We're pushing up here and testing this a bigger resistance area in the chart and breaking through there. Once again, likely going to have some bigger data to do that, but pushing up through that area, then we start looking for the potential of all-time high breakouts here in the chart. If the bears find that inspiration, well, we're going to see the same kind of thing. Following along with that resistance in here, if we would push lower, I'm going to suggest a push. Whoops, didn't draw that very well. A push down into here to test some of the lows, right, of these candles right in here. So push into there, and if that were to break or collapse, then possibly coming down to the low of Friday's candle, and then beyond that, the low of Thursday's candle, and some of these bigger areas of price support in the chart. And then if we look at our Russell, the Russell had the best day yesterday, pushing up. We ended up right at the end of the day seeing some selling coming in, putting in that spinning top doji in there. Notice we're trying to push a little bit higher. Again, that rotation is trying to occur here, yet even though we're very, very weak on volume, yesterday there just wasn't a lot going on. First of all, there was, a lot of folks traveling and things like that to see the eclipse. Maybe we'll have a little bit more volume today. But as you can see, pushing up into here, holding a little tiny area of price support. We still have this downtrend in here that we'll need to be thinking about. If the bulls can find that inspiration, we need to push through that area here in the chart and maybe pushing up. You can see breaking some of these candles right in here to the upside, and that resistance area right there, maybe we can push up through there. If we can break on through there, then I think there is that chance we can push on and test this major resistance area in the chart. Breaking through that does change things here in IWM. We would need to break through and hold, and you can see we've tried that a few times and we just haven't been able to get up there and hold. That's a pretty big resistance area in the chart, so that would be significant if that were to occur. If the bears find inspiration here today and we lose this little teeny tiny area of price support in the chart, breaking down below here, well, then I think we start coming back down and we start testing these lows, and then beyond that point coming down into this area of the chart. If we start breaking beyond that, start taking out some of these low prints in the chart, and we may actually come all the way down here to this trend break here in the chart. There's that trend break that I've got marked in the chart. We could actually come all the way back down and test that if we had some significant bearish data that would come into play. Right now, we're going to have to wait for those economic reports probably to give us that significant play in the chart. Sorry, I ended up straight line. So watch that closely. Let's take a look at our VIX. Our VIX yesterday did pull back nicely, relieving some of that pressure here on the VIX, but you'll notice we really didn't change anything all that much. We're still holding this little trend to the upside. We still have that higher low in here that we'll need to be thinking about. In this pullback, we're coming back into some price support here in the chart, and I can show you with this chart that price support runs back here quite a ways. So if we hold this price support right in here, hold that area, then that's where we would look for that potential bounce off of this little upside trend right in here on the chart. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. This little upside trend could set itself up in here if we can find that bullish inspiration. Well, it would be bearish inspiration for the market that would likely create that, but bullish inspiration on the VIX. If we hold some of these support levels in here on that chart, then we'll start worrying about that and that potential bounce then here to the upside on the VIX. If the bears if the bulls really find that good inspiration here today, pushing down below that level, could change things here in the VIX. Breaking this down into here changes that sentiment quite a bit, saying we're not concerned at all here in the market. So watch carefully for those things. If we take a look at our T20s here this morning, our T2122 did have a nice little rally yesterday, pushed back up. You can see at the end of the day we ended up just kind of hooking over here just a little bit. That can sometimes tell us, hockey stick in the air. We can get some punishment on that. We go to the penalty box, but I would tell you there's not enough data here today really to provide us that big punishment that might roll us over. So we're up above this 50% area because of that nice little rally yesterday. If we can continue to see bullish inspiration here to push us up, we certainly have plenty of upside opportunity if we can find that. And if the bears were to come in with inspiration, well, we've got a little bit more space now to the downside move if the bears were to find inspiration on the day. If we take a look at our T2108, you got to give this, T2108, you got to give this to the bulls. They pushed up yesterday. We didn't really change a whole lot in here. We pushed this back up into that downtrend break, or uptrend break, I should say, and we're coming up into some price resistance in the chart. So no real major change here, but you still have to give that to the bulls. They were pushing in here yesterday for that upside move. So watch this carefully. If we can continue to find that inspiration up, we might break through that up here. That would be helpful. If the bears find inspiration breaking back down and maybe approaching toward this 50% area, that would be kind of a critical support level here, I think, at the moment, psychological support level, at least for the market to have more than 50% of the stocks above their 40-day. And then if we look at our T2107, once again, you got to give this to the bulls. They held in there, pushing back up yesterday, recovering that trend, coming right back up into here. We've got quite a lot of resistance in this chart. If I slide this back, we're up here in that very, very frothy area on T2107. We'll want to watch that pretty closely, but if the bulls can follow through, obviously we've got more levels up here that we can test as resistance to see if we can push on up. Every reason to believe that's possible. If the bears were to find inspiration, you can see we could kind of give up this trend, but there's plenty of support in here to catch us as well. So no particular worries just yet unless we get something major in data that moves us, and I think we're going to wait till Wednesday for that. And our T2101 showed us what we would expect. The breadth declining yesterday, even though we were trying to push up. Our market breadth was declining on very weak volume yesterday. Whole lot of uncertainty here in the market. Notice we got a little bit of price resistance right in there that we're reacting to. Wouldn't be surprised to see that breadth continues to fall away, and it may fall away all the way through till the big bank earnings reports start on Friday. Because we can't have corporate activity in here. Corporate buybacks are done for a period of time, and they won't be coming back until kind of the end of this month. So watch that carefully. Let's take a look at our earnings calendar here, or excuse me, our economic calendar here for today. Our economic calendar, as you can see, just not a whole lot to inspire the market on. We've got an NFIB small business optimism report tomorrow. They are suggesting that that would move up at 89.9. The actual number here this morning has fallen to 88.5. So we're seeing small business optimism declining just a little bit here this morning. And that's it. There's nothing else here. We've got bond announcements, and we've got a 3-year note auction this afternoon that probably isn't going to be market moving. Everybody's going to be thinking about this number tomorrow and what that's going to mean for our market ahead. And your guess is as good as mine. There's the bond market saying it's not going to be good. The stock market saying it is going to be good. You figure it out. I don't think the market itself knows how we're going to react to that tomorrow. Remember, it's not so much about the number, it's how we react to it that's going to be important. If we take a look at our earnings calendar, we do have some earnings potential inspiration here today. We'll want to watch carefully for that. I'll run through these really quick. CGNT will be reporting this morning. Keep an eye on that. We're going to have NEOG also reporting. Looks like it's going just a tiny bit lower here this morning. And TLRY, some cannabis, will be reporting this morning. Kind of hanging in there at the moment, just a tiny little bit lower. This afternoon, we have PSMT on the calendar as a notable. We've got SGH as a notable today, holding in a very bullish pattern in that upside trend, so I'd keep an eye on that one this afternoon. And WDFC, WD40 will be reporting this afternoon. It had a good stretch up yesterday as it heads into that number today, or this afternoon, so watch that carefully on WD40. And that's the length and the stretch of the notables here for today, which is pretty normal for this time of year. Very few notables to move the market. Beginning of earnings is coming up. The official kickoff will be on Friday with some of the big bank reports. So with that, let's take a look at a few stocks that could be setting up for today. But before we do that, everyone, if you guys could do me this favor, if this is the first time you've seen these videos, if you could please click the subscribe button on YouTube and also click the bell icon when it pops up, so you'll be notified every time I post a video. And if you want to help the channel out a little bit more, if you could click that thumbs up button, leave a brief comment if you find that the video is worthy, I would truly appreciate that. Leaving a brief comment helps the channel continue to grow. It's the engagement with the channel that makes the difference. Thank you so much to everyone who does do that. I appreciate it. It does help a lot. Remember, even emojis count, so as you're engaging with that. So thank you so much to everyone who does do that. I truly, truly appreciate it. Let's take a look at a few stocks that could be setting up for today, but remember, these are not recommendations to buy or sell any security. You've got to do your own due diligence. Be very, very careful in this market, remembering market condition is we're waiting on that CPI and PPI numbers before we'll likely get some kind of major reaction or inspiration in the market. So consider that carefully when you're looking at stocks and feeling that desire that I got to hurry up and buy something today. Remember what the impacts of that could be, and the big price moves that could occur when we run into the CPI. Now, that doesn't mean there's not something that you could buy or sell or whatever here in the market. Do what you need to do, but remember, try not to overtrade heading into events like this, because anybody's guess as to what happens tomorrow morning. Let's take a look at some of these stocks, and remember, guys, follow your trading plan, follow your guidance, follow your risk tolerance for any trade. Never ever blindly follow anyone else's trade idea. Well, first off, let's take a look at Mosaic in here. I mentioned this yesterday, and Mosaic tried to pop yesterday and it ended up pulling back just with the very light price action in the market. Still like this potential setup here in Mosaic. I keep a close eye on that. I mentioned earlier that we were going to check over there at in Palladium and take a look. Palladium had a really nice move yesterday, popping through that alert, showing bullishness. Now, we've done this before and we haven't been able to sustain it, so we need a little bit of proof. But noticing that we're holding above the 50-day moving average, we've got all of our short-term moving averages up through there, providing some moving average squeeze potential here in Palladium. Watch that carefully. It may be catching up here to some of the other metals out there that are just zooming, and that being, gold. My goodness, just zooming to the upside, looking very, very strong here, and we may go ahead and reach on up here and set new records today in GLD. If we take a look at PHYS is a physical gold, and that's also zooming up here, looking really good. If you want an ETF that's a little bit cheaper to trade, something you might want to take a look at, PHYS. You might want to also keep an eye on silver. Silver broke out of this big resistance area of the chart, and since then, straight up parabolic. What I would caution you on is just to be a little bit careful. We're approaching another big resistance area here in the chart on that silver SLV. You can see that runs all the way back over here, showing us that resistance. So keep a close eye on that, but you can't deny there's a lot of energy here in gold and silver prices. They are really running hot here in the market. We could also take a look at anything in that copper area of the market. We're seeing some pretty substantial copper shortages around the country, and you can see after breaking through this major resistance in the chart, SCCO just tearing it up to the upside, all-time highs here in SCCO. So any rest or pullback in here, I wouldn't want to chase it at this moment, but any rest or pullback would set up an opportunity. And I'm going to say some, Freeport, another copper miner, very, very bullish, pushing on through, respecting this trend. If we pull this back, we're pushing up here toward a high here in that chart. We still have some additional all-time highs out here that were years ago to try and reach through, and I think there's a very good chance we will reach those eventually, the way copper and the shortages of copper has been acting. So now a lot of this is going to depend, of course, on what happens to the US dollar. I'm looking at UUP here. UUP is showing some weakness here, pushing lower. Remember, if we continue to see the dollar weaken, we're likely to see commodity prices move higher. So showing that little bit of weakness, breaking that upside trend, breaking some support in here. Watch this carefully. This will have a major potential move coming, depending on what happens with that CPI tomorrow and how the bond yields react. Those bond yields have been going up and up and up, saying, no, there's a problem here, there's a problem here, and those yields stretching. Well, if we suddenly see a big shift tomorrow based on that CPI, watch for fluctuations here in UUP, and it could have impacts on all of those commodity prices out there. So watch those pretty closely. If we look at soybeans, you guys know I've been talking about soybeans and that possibility, still in that possible setup here. I would watch that. I would watch things like corn, also in that possible setup, holding in there. We're waiting on some definition as to what that dollar is going to do here before we make a move either up or down on these. Now, that would not be the same when we take a look at energy. Energy has made that decision, and partially, I would say a big portion of that has to do with the OPEC holding their production cuts, not changing that. We're also seeing that situation of all the geopolitical concerns in the market, raising that fear on energy, and the weakness of the dollar is only going to help this move on higher. So watch that carefully. We're still pushing strongly here, and boy, you can just look through, lots of these stocks, and there are every reason to believe that these have potential to move on higher. I really like this PSX. Now, I would say this trend is stretched a little bit higher here. Little trajectory has gone up. Little resting pullback in here. Watch that trend. Look for that next opportunity. It would look very, very similar to this, and every reason to believe that that is possible the way the market is reacting. So keep an eye on anything in that commodity sector showing lots and lots of strength. Other places here in the market you might want to take a quick look at. Take a look at TEVA. TEVA still setting up nicely here. Now, it has slipped this upside trend, if you notice. We kind of slipped past that, but we're creating that higher low here, showing us that opportunity of resumption of upside trend. So as it tests this resistance up here, and we're resting just a little bit, look for that opportunity that could stretch on through to the upside. Looking pretty good there. Keep an eye on Qualcomm. Qualcomm continues to set up in here, and that possibility that it may push on through and break out. IBM still sitting here on this price support. We've slipped past this little downtrend. We're trying to hold strongly in here. We may find reason for inspiration in this, even in that CPI tomorrow, where we make that break to the upside, or this breaks down and actually becomes a short trade in the market. And take a look at Archer Daniels. Archer Daniels would be another potential upside trade here. Again, that theme of agriculture, things like that, showing bullishness here in the market. That's still holding in here, that possibility that we could run and fill that gap. And I'm going to go to AMD on the other side of that. The same ticker symbols, just differently arranged, and you can see AMD starting to show us that little bit of concern in here. This big ugly candle breaking away from this resistance here in the chart, and now we're just kind of resting in here on support. Watch that carefully here, guys. That possibility that this could slip off of this cliff, and that would be could be a big point move to the downside if AMD slips off of that area of the chart. So there's quite a few charts for you to look at. There's certainly a lot more that I could point out here this morning. I'm just running out of time. Want to wish you guys all a fantastic day. Want to wish you great results in your trading. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks for supporting the channel. I appreciate it, and I will see you right back here bright and early Wednesday morning for that CPI number. Y'all take care and be safe.